Hey everyone, welcome back, it's Lockhart QT, and today I wanted to talk about the recent news regarding the next BioWare game's development, as well as where BioWare currently are with development of the next Mass Effect game in the series. So if you're new to the channel here, don't forget to subscribe, comment, like this video for more BioWare and Mass Effect related content. So I did a video yesterday talking about the recent news of BioWare's development team. Recently, Michael Gamble, also known as Big Mikey G, set the record straight by stating that 4 members of the BioWare team, being Parrish Lay, which is the next game's creative producer, Derek Watts, the next game's art director, and Preston W, who is the next game's director, and obviously including Michael Gamble himself as project director in charge of everyone, are all returning to work on the next Mass Effect game, and all 4 previously worked on the original trilogy in some way, shape or form, all 4 coming in at different points throughout the development of Mass Effect, Mass Effect 2, Mass Effect 3 and Andromeda. Now, a lot of my newer fans may not even realise this, but this isn't the first time we've had similar news to veterans returning to BioWare who worked on the original trilogy of Mass Effect games. Shortly after the next Mass Effect game was officially confirmed to be in development and we had that reveal trailer all the way back in 2020 at the Game Awards, Michael Gamble revealed that a number of original trilogy veterans has returned to work on the next instalment, including the likes of obviously Derek Watts, who I mentioned before, Brennan Holmes, who's also the executive producer, and again Parrish Lay and much more. Plus the fact that BioWare now have a wealth of newer talent such as Mary DeMol, who is the senior narrative director who previously worked on the likes of Guardians of the Galaxy, Deus Ex and I believe Uncharted. Now for me that is a very big appointment, as Mass Effect's strongest suit has always been its storytelling and characters, so having somebody in charge of a game like for example the recent Guardians of the Galaxy, which in my opinion at least had a great story, great storytelling as well as great character moments, bringing what experience she has over to the next Mass Effect team as well as BioWare is fantastic. We also have obviously Danielle Enns and more recent appointment of Connie Booth, who departed Sony last October after nearly 3 decades as PlayStation's former head of internal game production, also joined EA to oversee its action RPG portfolio last week, which obviously includes BioWare, Dragon Age and Mass Effect. Now for me this is the more significant appointment because in the past 12 months EA and BioWare has been mismanaged and under scrutiny due to layoffs and rumours internally that BioWare has become a crunch oriented toxic environment to work at, which has come more from the Dragon Age side of things rather than Mass Effect, because as you well know Mass Effect is still in pre-production, and for people who don't know game development, pre-production is effectively one of the first steps in development. Obviously you've got pre-production, then full production, and then the game goes into beta, alpha, and then gold. The game goes gold as in it's printed onto discs, and then the game launches. So suffice to say, we're quite a ways off from getting any more news regarding the next Mass Effect game. We're probably going to get a lot more news like this coming in, the next couple years. We may get something on N7 Day, however, the recent community manager and a few other people who are responsible directly for bringing you, the quite cool N7 Day posts in the past few years have all sadly been laid off or fired from BioWare. So it's going to be interesting to see what BioWare do for, N7 Day in the next couple of years. So obviously I've just mentioned that obviously the next game is still in pre-production, meaning that the next game is probably a ways off. We've heard loads of rumours and speculation off industry insiders that the game won't be out until 2028, 2029, and we've heard even more rumours recently that the next game internally at BioWare is being considered for the PlayStation 6, and I'm just going to call it Xbox Series X2 because we currently don't know what that's going to be called. And I've mentioned this before, but that's pretty wild to me, that the fact that we might not get the next Mass Effect game up until like the PlayStation 6. We'll have to skip an entire console generation just to get the next Mass Effect game. And this really goes onto the topic again of game developers announcing their games way too early. In my opinion, the next Mass Effect game should not have been revealed in the way that it was back in 2020. Obviously, we had the Legendary Edition. In my mind, at least, I thought we were going to get, obviously, the reveal in 2020 of the next Mass Effect game. Then in 2021, we got the Legendary Edition. Then I thought, oh, okay, if they're, remastering the older games, they obviously want people to know what happened in the original trilogy. Plus, you've got Andromeda as well. And they want everyone to, catch up effectively with the story going into the next game. So it will definitely come out, 2023, 2024. And you have to look at games such as, Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy VII Remake. Those games got announced way too early. Cyberpunk is another fantastic example. And in my opinion, you should announce a game and then at very most 3 years, I think is probably the most I would, wait for a game like this. The fact that it's obviously going to be a single player game. In terms of what else we know about the game, I've got to be honest, there's not really much else we know. There's a huge rumour going around, and it's pretty much confirmed without them actually, going in and, I think at this point BioWare and EA actually need to tell this, but the next game is rumoured to be built on Unreal Engine 5, which is fantastic because Andromeda was built on EA's Frostbite engine and had loads of issues as a result, and the original trilogy as well as the Legendary Edition were all built on Unreal Engine 3, so it's nice to see BioWare potentially going back to that. Allegedly, the next game won't be open world. It's kind of like Andromeda was. It was sort of semi-open world, and obviously the more Mako-oriented areas in the original Mass Effect. Apparently, the next game won't be open world. It will be linear, like Mass Effect 2, Mass Effect 3, which in my opinion is fantastic. Although I'm a big advocate for open world games, in my opinion Mass Effect does suit the more cinematic linear format of Mass Effect 2 and 3. But now you're probably wondering what's my opinion. Well, in my opinion, I think the game will come out 2028, 2029. I do think that BioWare and EA should be given as much time as humanly possible to work on this game. I really don't want this to be rushed, as there's also reports and rumours internally that Dragon Age Dreadwolf is apparently going to be a bit of a Hail Mary, as obviously BioWare have had a cancelled project. They've had Anthem, which completely died as a live service, and Andromeda, which had extremely bad marketing and bad press, obviously for their facial animations, the bugs at launch, and the story being a bit underwhelming compared to the original trilogy. Overall, I quite liked Andromeda, but I can understand, pretty much all the criticism it gets. I'm completely, it's fine with me. I completely agree with quite a lot of the criticism that game noticeably gets. So Dragon Age Dreadwolf could be a sort of last chance for BioWare for a lot of people. If that game comes out and it's just a train wreck, then BioWare are in trouble. But again, I don't want to get too negative in this video. I think that with all the talent and the wealth of people working at BioWare who seem to know what they're doing, I think that if BioWare seem to have turned a bit of a corner going into sort of November, December. They seem to have, gotten their shit together. Obviously, the layoffs happened, and that sucks. I myself got laid off in December, so I completely understand what they're going through in terms of the developers that got laid off. And I think the thing to talk about here is BioWare need to be managed a bit better. I think that, for example, you can't just reveal a game and then it come out 9 years later. I think it would have been a different thing if they just dropped it in like a random interview. Oh yeah, like we're working on the next Mass Effect game, but it's a ways off. I think that would have had a completely different reception, whatever. But the fact that they did this big reveal at the Game Awards and then we've had nothing since, pretty much. Obviously, we've had little teasers and things here and there, primarily from N7 days, which, as I mentioned earlier, the people that were quite responsible for those and had big parts in doing those are now gone. So the future of BioWare is quite uncertain, but I do think, and I kind of agree with what other content creators have said, such as, Calla Elizabeth, for example, a few other content creators, where I do think with BioWare's portfolio of developers, I do definitely think they can turn this around and make the next Mass Effect game good. Again, they've got all the ingredients there, they just need to, make a good game, and I know that's obviously much easier said than done, but it's now up to BioWare to make a game that the fans deserve, and a game that can also bring back Mass Effect, so to speak, as although the Legendary Edition did very well, it would technically, if the game does launch in 2029, that would be an 8-year gap. So it's either a question of, will BioWare re-release the Legendary Edition or maybe do a collection with Andromeda to get newer fans up to speed. But again, we'll have to wait and see. So thank you for watching today's video. I know it's been a bit of a long one, and I just want to say thank you for everyone who supported me recently. I know I've had some time off, but I'm back now, and I'm back on the Mass Effect content wagon. So thank you so much for watching the video today, and for more Mass Effect content, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and more importantly, tell me in the comments below, what do you think about all of this recent news of the veterans returning to BioWare, as well as when do you think the game will be announced, and when do you think we'll get a title reveal? Tell me all that in the comments below. I'd really like to hear and engage in conversation with you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.